At the December 15th Lansing City Council meetings, the council heard from 18 passionate residents about the transitional housing project. People were pissed at the 13 state House Republicans pulling massive funding cuts. 6 Old Town shopkeepers supported expanding the business district boundary. A 4-4 vote stalled a noise ordinance change. 3 board appointees and 2 redevelopment tax abatements were approved. And there was one comment about the disgraced fire chief. Welcome to What Lansing Council, a podcast transforming Monday night's Lansing City Council meetings into an enthralling recap. I'm your host, Jill Dombrowski, and today my very special guest is Khadja Erickson. Thank you for being here, Khadja.
Thanks for having me.
So excited to talk to you, especially after what happened at the meeting. Yeah. Khadja is a dedicated housing advocate, organizer, and executive director of the Tenant Resource Center Mid-Michigan. With years of experience in harm reduction, eviction defense, and grassroots organizing, she has worked tirelessly to ensure Lansing tenants have the tools, knowledge, and support they need to stay housed and assert their rights. She's also a mom to 5 fabulous kids, which shapes how she thinks about stability, safety, and the kind of city we're building for the next generation.
Yeah.
You're doing so much.
I am doing so much, but I love it. Great. I really appreciate the opportunity to even do this work.
Yeah. Amazing. And tell us more about what Lansing means to you.
Lansing for me is where my life transformed for me. It's where, I really got serious about my sobriety here, my family. Lansing's just a very interesting place, and it just means a lot. I don't know. I don't really know how to explain it because I'm not really from here, so I don't necessarily have those same community connections that other people do, but I've certainly built my own, and I've put roots down here, and there's something about Lansing. People talk a lot of mess about Lansing, but I don't know. I really love it, and I've lived in big cities. I've lived in really tiny places too. But Lansing is it's a very unique space. I think it's mainly the people here, honestly. Yeah. The community I've been able to build and be me.
Nice. Yeah, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah,
it's everything.
Yeah.
It's so great to hear. What are some things that you would like to see change in Lansing?
I'd like to see a number of things change, but my primary focus is on housing. And Lansing has a severe housing shortage, not just for affordable housing, but just housing in general. There's nowhere in the United States that has 100 affordable housing units for 100 families. That doesn't exist anywhere. And so that has to change. There has to be real investment in housing that is not profit tied. That is the real issue here because everybody is looking to make their money back. And so we need to move away from that. And there's several ways to do that. We could be investing in social housing. It's always at the top of the list. I know that social housing has an extremely poor reputation because of how it was implemented in the past. However, it's very clear that all of the other factors that would allow someone to have more availability of housing just do not exist, and those are primarily economic. And so based on what the city of Lansing can actually effectuate on, I really need them to seriously focus on making affordable housing available. And what I mean by affordable housing is $600, including everything. All utilities, $600 or less. This is how we ensure people who are entering homelessness now are not remaining in homelessness long term. And those age groups are children and our seniors. Yeah. Right? Children are not able to make money. That's illegal, right? We have child labor laws.
Yes.
And so we need to be providing housing for them, which means we have to be supporting their parents.
Yeah.
Right? There cannot be a merit test for their parents because their parents are legally required to take care of their children or the state comes and takes them away. Yeah. Right? And for our seniors, depending on what their financial situation is, if they're on Social Security, it's not likely that they're able to afford rental rates at the market value and afford their medicine and afford transportation and afford to visit family or have family visit them, to feed themselves regularly. Housing underpins so much, and we could alleviate so much stress for people by making truly affordable housing readily available for them.
100%. And when you say social housing, is there anything that currently exists in mid-Michigan that would fall under that?
I think a lot of people would consider like the project-based voucher units around. So I'm thinking like LHC, maybe like a Walter French, and some of these other pilot programs that we have around. That is kind of like social housing, but true social housing would be, essentially a government program, and run by the government. We would need to have a long planning period, though, to really consider what that means. And it would necessarily involve oversight from actual citizens. And I'm not talking about people who live in the surrounding neighborhood. I'm talking about the people who are going to live in those units, right? Because that's the only way we're going to keep our finger really on the pulse. I almost said my foot on the gas. Our finger on the pulse of what's truly happening inside of these places.
Sure. So
that they can be conducive spots for people to be. And I think we also need to move away from the idea that there's going to be 98% of the population who is going to be able to sustain themselves. That's never been a reality. Yeah. Families throughout time immemorial have always had dependents, whether they were children, adults, or seniors.
Yes.
We've always had people we needed to care for. And so again, we need to be providing that housing. And if social housing is not palatable for people, there are also other ways that we can engage with affordable housing. Looking at our zoning laws beyond additional dwelling units, ADUs, those are great. But when you think about the people who are actually going to be able to engage in that type of work or that type of construction on their property, it's not really addressing the issue that we're looking for, right?
Yeah.
And then also consider your landlord lives in your backyard, you know what I mean? Or you live in your landlord's
right,
backyard.
You might not want that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's bad enough that they know where you live. And so there's also co-ops that exist. There's also house sharing where basically you participate in group ownership of the property and you all live together.
Yeah.
There are a number of places that function like that here in Lansing. And while, again, these on first brush probably sound like pretty niche housing arrangements, that's not necessarily true. And they would address the housing instability we see amongst young adults between the ages of 18 and 26, as well as our seniors who would want to live amongst people in their same age group who share similar interests. And so there's a lot of loneliness people are experiencing. So it also addresses that issue too by having a built-in community.
Yeah.
And I don't want to get too much in the weeds, but
well, I'm here for it. I really appreciate you sharing all of that and talking about how there are options. There's different ways of doing things besides just what we're doing now, which is a lot of single family homes and then a lot of these bigger developments, bigger apartment complexes where people are in. So yes, thank you. At the top, you kind of said there isn't the 100 houses for 100 families. That just doesn't exist. Yeah. Do you know what the number is in Lansing?
Ooh, for Lansing, I'm not sure, but I think the number for Michigan is about 38
houses for 100 families.
Yes.
Oh God.
Right. So it's the Hunger Games out here for housing.
That's really low.
Yeah. And it's not as bad as other areas in the country. But I guess I bring that up to illustrate that every community is struggling with the same issue. No one has figured out how to increase the stock of available truly affordable housing outside of what we've always seen, which is developers coming in to do revitalization projects, or they're buying up property for pennies on the dollar, and then they're building new construction, and they tell us, well, it's what's the new phrase these days? It's workforce housing.
Workforce housing.
Yeah, that's scary. Yeah. That's real scary. They start talking about 80% AMI and stuff like that. It's like, who? Last time I checked, I think that the median income in Lansing was a little north of $45,000. What are we talking about?
Right. I know.
Who are these residents that they are speaking of? And not to get conspiratorial, but anytime we talk about housing, they're never talking about the residents that live here now.
Right.
They're always talking about residents.
We're going to bring people in.
Right? And so that is also an issue. It's a huge issue.
It is a huge issue. And something that definitely came up a lot at council tonight.
Yeah.
Let's get into it.
Yeah.
So we're at the December 15th, 2025 meeting, the last meeting of the year. All councilors are present. We have Ryan Cost, the president, representing the 1st Ward, Jeremy Garza, representing the 2nd Ward, Adam Hussein of the 3rd Ward, Brian T. Jackson of the 4th Ward. Our at-large members are Jeffrey Brown, Tamara Carter, vice president, Trini Pelivanoglu, and Peter Spatafor. The council members-elect, who will be our council members next year, Dianera Navarez-Martinez and Clara Martinez, were in the audience for this meeting. So nice to see them getting ready to be the ones up there.
Yes.
Also, we had Greg Venker, the city attorney, Sherry Boak, the recording secretary, Mark Lawrence on behalf of the mayor for the committee of the whole, and at the regular meeting, city clerk Chris Swope and Mayor Andy Shore. So I'm going to start with the regular meeting public comments. First, we had 3 Moores Park residents who live near the old Shabazz Academy building on South Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard. And they were here saying, we've heard that the transitional housing that's being planned by the Human Relations Community Services Department, they're now looking at the Shabazz Academy as their top choice for the Mod Pod community. And these 3 Moores Parks folks were like, no thanks, our property value will be affected, we can't have that. Mm-hmm. And they were being a little more politically correct about it, but
Sure.
They were saying this isn't a great spot because of all the noise from MLK, would be unsuitable. And just in general, there's been a lack of transparency around the decision-making process from the Human Relations and Community Service Department. You should take the time to do this right so this doesn't deter other projects in the future. Mm-hmm. Which I thought was a good point.
Yes.
There was one East Side resident saying kind of the same thing. You need to listen to the taxpayers. There's frustration with this process. The cost and accountability are really big points that aren't being taken into account. There is more community support for the Mod Pods than for the data center. Put the Mod Pods where the data center is being proposed.
Love that.
And then we had 15 voices speaking out about how more housing is needed, period. Mm-hmm. And there's hundreds of people who are unhoused in our community. And this is just focusing, the Mod Pods is focusing on like 65. So that's not even, this is just a small portion of what needs to be done. Yes. The city needs to be listening to the voices of the people who will be put into that community over the voices of the currently housed. As one commenter put it, the potential allies for this project are not being effectively brought into the fold by the city, and the citizens who are against it are mobilizing. Yes. So, like, nobody is happy. Nothing, like, there's no good momentum here.
No. Well, I guess I would just like to state that the announcement for the Mod Pod project itself came in a moment of political pressure that the mayor was under. It wasn't announced out of like altruism, it was announced with a motive. Mm-hmm. And you never are able to start out from a position of control and end up in a situation that signifies humanity and dignity. It's just not possible. And so with that starting point, how could we have gotten to a point now where people are able to come together and have consensus about what's going on? I think it's unfortunate that property value will have more of an impact on this project and where it goes and how we're able to service people than actually meeting the need of the people who are going to live there. But that's par for the course. That's what always comes up. It's always, well, we would love to have it in our neighborhood, just not in that spot specifically, but we don't have a suggestion of any other place in our neighborhood either, mm-hmm. but like definitely not there. Right. And that's everyone's thing is like, we want it here. We definitely do. Mm-hmm. And we have no suggested spot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No one in the homeless union who was polled about the locations that have been selected wanted Shabazz Academy.
Okay.
And that is why I am not interested in the Shabazz Academy, mm-hmm. aside from the fact that of all of the properties available to the city of Lansing to investigate and look at, how did we arrive on a historic building meant to serve Black children?
Right.
That has been underfunded, not utilized for years. Mm-hmm. How did that end up on the list? I'm curious to know.
Yeah.
Right? When we have so many empty commercial buildings mm-hmm. that would actually be more suitable.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know if the way that we are talking about the Mod Pods collectively is really coming from a culture of care, right? Because it is so important that we are engaging the community. We wouldn't all feel this way because it's interesting. The homeowners' feedback about the process is similar to unhoused people's feedback about this process. It's lacking transparency. It feels very secretive. It feels extremely top down, right? They're not engaging with the advocates doing boots on the ground work with unhoused people. They're just not.
That should be the number one.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess also, to everyone's point, like, we do need to take our time. Yeah. These are real human beings who deserve a well thought out process that engages all of the people who will be touching their lives while they're at the Mod Pod. And so we do need to slow down and truly engage in the community. Is it going to suck for HRCS? Probably. It's not going to feel good to sit through meeting after meeting, hearing about how you're not doing your job well, you're not listening to this or doing that. That's actually necessary, because in between all of the complaints and all of the disgruntled talk, you're also going to hear valid suggestions and people who are wanting to move the project forward. And let's not dismiss the fact that those complaints are also necessary, because it shows us pain points that we have to address. They're not going to go away by ignoring them. Yeah. Right? We have to engage. I'm sorry, y'all, but we have to engage and have conversations over time. Yeah. It can't be monthly meetings. Yeah. It can't be.
And I feel like people are willing to engage on this. Yeah. Like, people are showing up. They're saying their piece. They're at least perfunctorily trying to work with each other. Yeah. And just, getting people together to start this process.
Absolutely.
I feel proud of our residents for coming out.
Me too. And I think I love the data center parking lot idea. And not because of, just because it's not Shabazz or any of the other parks, but because, I don't want the data center here either. So we killed two birds with one stone. Yes. You know what I mean? Yeah. And if we're able to do conditional zoning for that parking lot for a data center, perhaps we can do conditional zoning for the Mod Pods at that exact location.
Yeah. It's very interesting that these issues are coming up together at the same time, like kind of opposite ends of the spectrum of what does the city care about.
Right. Yeah.
We'll see.
Investment is what they care about. All signs point to that.
Yes. And there were a bunch of comments at this meeting as well about the encampment at Diedrich Park. The folks were saying, we're very concerned that it's going to be bulldozed. Yeah. Because after some lengthy proceedings, court proceedings, where the city was ordered to provide services, also, a third of the encampment was bulldozed without any notice, while some residents were actually at a meeting trying to work through these issues, and the city bulldozed a third of the encampment. Yeah. And people are really nervous that that's going to happen again.
Yeah. I guess I can add some context to this, because I think it is actually really important for how all of this is going. So the previous Friday, I had looked at the Register of Action just to double check to make sure that maybe the hearing didn't get canceled for next Wednesday, or, just making sure that we were up to date on all of at least the filings that we could see. And on there, we saw a motion for a default judgment against JAJ Property.
Two main properties?
Yes. Okay. So JAJ Property is the big one that's still involved in litigation right now. Okay. 113 West Michigan was also on the Register of Action, but showing that they had reached an agreement and had now been removed from the case. At the time, we didn't know what that agreement necessarily meant, but we saw that there was a motion for a default judgment, which made all of us extremely nervous, because that would mean essentially the case is over. And so we scrambled, and we were like, okay, well, we could do a motion to intervene, right? Because you guys are tenants here. You've been treated as persons under control by both the property owners and the city, right? And so you are tenants. You are entitled to due process,
like, and legally.
Yes, and you should be a party to this case. And so, we devised a motion to intervene, and we put that in, and we get to court that following Wednesday. And while we're there, during the hearing, really all morning long, people are reporting from the camp, hey, we see these big big digging
earth movers.
Yeah, these earth movers, and there's these trucks like basically starting to pile up around the camp, which is not the norm. And so we're on high alert because of what we saw in the Register of Action, and all signs are pointing towards something is about to happen to the camp. There's no other reason for this type of buildup here. And so people were starting to deploy to the encampment to just keep an eye and see what was happening.
Sure.
We suspected that they were about to roll the camp, and so we kind of split the group. Some stayed back at the camp to try and move people out of the danger zone.
Sure.
Because information was coming down that 113 Michigan had reached a settlement, and now they were removed from the lawsuit, and they had agreed to basically clear cut the forest on their property and put up a fence. And so that's what they were out there doing. They sent the company that they hired out there. I can't remember their name, and they did the perimeter check for his property line, which of course meant that people had to scramble to move their belongings out of there.
Yeah.
But they didn't care about these people's lives and their things in the tents. And so some people ended up having their tents destroyed so that the forest could be clear cut and a fence could be put up. I used to refer to Dietrich, that portion of it, as like the most beautiful property in all of Lansing. They weren't trying to give people time to like move their stuff away. And so a ton of people's belongings ended up being destroyed. And I'm not really sure like really what we could have done to respond faster. I mean, maybe we could have like just gone on instinct and just started moving people's stuff out of the way. But yeah, while we were in court, we're getting texts and people are sending videos and photos of them destroying a portion of the camp. And we're like, we have people in the audience. We're like, Judge, like, what is going on? Like, how are we moving this fast? Like, they lined it up so that as soon as it came through, it was finalized in the court, they could move. And in the middle of the proceedings, they just start. They literally start the second the judge is like, yep, that's the deal, essentially. That's it. There was no warning. Right?
Yeah.
And so, like, it's been a very traumatic experience. Just, camp evictions are never easy. I have witnessed more than 50 myself personally, and they never get easy to witness. But I think it's worse to remember. Everybody who's ever studied camp evictions tells you they do not work. It always extends the amount of time someone spends in homelessness. Anytime you set up either a sanctioned encampment, transitional housing, permanent supportive housing from a carceral mindset, it always fails. People know you do not believe in them and that you feel that you have to control them in order for them to succeed. And that's not how people work. That's not how they work at all. All of these people understand exactly what they need to do to get out of homelessness. What they need is people to support them and believe in them and help them achieve those steps along the way. That's what they need. They don't need a house person who has never experienced homelessness telling them that, no, you actually shouldn't. You've been on the street for 2 years. It's insane that you're using drugs now. It's horrific out there.
How could you make that decision?
How could you, right?
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, oftentimes the drug use follows homelessness. Not the other way around. People are using drugs to deal with the pressure that is coming from all sides. The threat of being moved along. I mean, it's just humiliating to be told that you can't sleep somewhere, knowing that there's nowhere else for you to go. And by the way, there are no shelter beds available in Lansing. They're all full because we are taking on not just the unhoused people in Lansing, but the unhoused people from East Lansing, the unhoused people from DeWitt, from Bath, from Holt, from Mason. They're coming here, right? Because their communities also refuse to invest in emergency shelter, to invest in affordable housing, right? We care about the median income of our suburbs a lot, and we care a lot about the property values of those suburbs, right?
And I just want to get back into this a little bit more. Two residents from the camp did come and speak on their behalf. I just was blown away by their courage and their voices. They talked about how it's incredibly cold and icy and they're not being treated like human beings. And one person just had the most lovely, soft, but commanding voice. And it was such a shockingly contrasted voice to everybody else at the meeting who I feel like was just speaking from their head, and this person was speaking from their heart. Yeah.
I just want to say it is extremely brave. It's been a long time trying to get them to come.
And they're working so hard within this crappy system, They're doing everything that the city has asked of them to work within the city's dumb system. Yeah. Like, they could be doing a lot to, rough stuff up. Yeah. And they're just being so respectful and peaceful.
Yeah, they don't want to get jacked up when we're not looking while they're at home at their camp and the police decide now's the time to show up because, well, there was a call that we can't determine, but we're here now.
Yeah. Another commenter said, we need to focus on community development over economic development. I own some vacant land in the city that I would be happy to let people camp on, but it's not allowed. A lady who was at the last meeting appeared again, speaking on behalf of her elderly relative who's getting fines from code compliance for not fixing her home up fast enough because of some fire damage. And this person was really upset, saying that we need to be giving more leeway and help to our senior citizens who are just trying their best to stay in their homes. Yeah. The final speaker of the year said, what a disgrace, with the fire chief, Brian Strudevant. He treated his employee disgracefully. Council needs to do a much better job of vetting these top positions. We cannot let people who have problematic pasts be in these positions of power in the city.
Yeah. That property owner who talked about having the vacant land, not only is it illegal, the city has demonstrated that they will sue you. They will take you to court and drag you through costly litigation if you decide to show compassion. The second I learned that the city was engaging in this type of litigation, one of the first bits of messaging I did was the chilling effect it would have on property owners who would like to engage and be a part of the solution, right? Financially, it's not feasible for us to really build our way out of this. It's just not possible. And we need places for people to be right now free of harassment, right? And so when the city, any city, this is not specific to Lansing, they're not the only ones doing it. And I would be remiss not to put this out here right now. When the city of Lansing launched their litigation against a private property owner for allowing an encampment to exist on their property, the city of Minneapolis launched their own litigation against a property owner within their jurisdiction who was willingly allowing people to camp on his property. So there are national implications for the things that happen in our backyard.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah. So, draw your own conclusions there. Yeah. But people are looking and they're watching. Yeah. Right? And so this is the effect. People who want to be a part of the solution in ways that are atypical are not able to because they fear costly litigation. And the city will do it. The city would quite literally rather spend money on litigation than put that money towards hosting enough meetings for people to feel comfortable with the decisions being made with their tax dollars.
Yeah. One commenter said that they had heard about the transitional housing placement for the first time from a friend who read a news article, went to a meeting, and was like, HRCS, why have I not heard about it? And their response was, oh, we don't have the funding to share this, to communicate with the citizens.
Which is crazy.
Somebody at the meeting said it would be much better to just let people shelter in place. If there's no help, then leave people alone. If you can't help them now, then there's worse things than legal liability. Don't become numb to the suffering around us. Yeah. And one commenter also called out your work specifically, saying that you are not getting enough thanks for all that you are doing, and also said to some of the council members don't get your information, don't become uninformed on this. Some of you are just getting your information from social media. Like, you're in charge of this.
Yeah.
Like, you are our city officials.
Yeah.
I thought that was a good point. Yeah. So that was a lot.
It was a lot.
Good, though. Everybody speaking out, you know?
Remember, city council meetings used to be fun. You know, maybe be some weird person, maybe break dancing or something. And that was like the big news, you know, too many cats in the tree type of stuff.
Yeah.
Not these days.
No. We're going to get into the rest of the business now of the meeting. So at the Committee of the Whole, we had 5 Old Town residents and property owners and business owners and members of the Old Town Commercial Association in favor of expanding the principal shopping district boundaries. So the current area that we think of as Old Town, it will now be expanded to the east to Pennsylvania, and then just specifically along Cesar Chavez all the way to Oakland, and 7 blocks to the west into primarily residential areas, and then a few blocks north. Just all like Dietrich Park was right on the edge of the new principal shopping district. So
isn't that so funny how all of it comes together? Wow, what a coincidence.
They were saying, we've done such a great job in Old Town. Since the 90s, we've gone from a 90% vacancy rate to a 90% occupancy rate. Like, look at us. Look at all we're doing. Isn't it so great? And like, you know, good for them. Like, it is great. It is great. Thank you, Old Town. We appreciate you. One person was against this from the Gillespie group, saying, we need some more time to understand. Like, you're not even, like, the city isn't even communicating with these people as well as it could be. So, communication should be a real goal for 2026.
Yeah.
So council votes this change in the shopping district through unanimously.
Of course.
Yes. Then we have a downtown issue. Graywall Hall wants to be included in downtown's, quote, social district. And that's like for drinking beers on the street. Councilmember Hussein asks, does this process go through like other city departments, or does it just come to us? Like, I don't understand this process.
Kathleen, what's happening there?
Yes. Kathleen Edgerly, who's the downtown Lansing Inc. head of it, she's like, oh, I'm not sure, but I haven't heard of any specific problems, so we should be good. Councilmember Jackson pushes back. He says, with this social district, what we are saying is it's okay for some people to drink alcohol on the streets, but it is illegal everywhere else. So what is it? Does it cause harm to have alcohol out on the streets or not? Because we're being very selective in the way we are applying these rules.
Yes.
Councilmember Brown catches a typo. He says that Graywall Hall should be a limited liability company, an LLC, not an LCC. So good reading there, Councilmember Brown. Police Chief Backus is there to talk through a police grant. So they're getting this grant will give them some funds for overtime, to pay people overtime for the next 2 summers. And they are going to focus on areas with, quote, patterns of type 1 crimes. These are big deal crimes, guns, assault, larceny, and also this will allow them to staff more community events. And it wasn't clear if this is like those things together or like the big crimes and also the community events.
I'm not sure either.
Or maybe the big crimes that are happening at community events. So Councilmember Hussein is like, what outcomes are you looking for? And Police Chief Backus is like, we're going to put officers where we get high call volumes Fridays and Saturday nights over the summer. Councilmember Carter says, I've heard from a lot of constituents concerned about speeding. Will you also be focusing on that? And he's like, sure, yeah. Garza is like, do you think this is going to be enough? Or are you going to spend all this money? He's like, yeah, we are. Pelivanoglu wants it made clear that the title for this grant is misleading. So it's not for funding for, quote, community police officers. It's community-oriented policing services. So that's something. Everyone wants to use the word community now.
Yep.
Councilmember Jackson is getting into it. He's like, do you plan to enforce these new noise ordinance laws if they are passed? And Chief Backus is like, well, I wasn't super prepared to speak on this, but the focus of this is type 1 crimes. And what you're talking about is like not that what our focus is going to be. And Jackson is like, do you think that arresting someone for a noise violation will build trust or erode trust? And Chief Backus is like, for things like noise ordinance, we try to do a warning and like educate people first.
Yeah.
Councilmember Cost jumps in and is like, listen, Jackson, we're talking about this grant. Like, we can talk about the police chief and also some prosecutors at a later date, but like, we need to stay on topic.
Sure.
Jackson is like, fine. And the grant is accepted unanimously.
All right.
Surprise, surprise.
Every time.
Then there was this relocation fee for tenant caused damage that has been talked about at a few meetings. So they've already passed some city ordinance changes where if there's an extreme event at a rental unit, this is my understanding, and the residents need to be evacuated to deal with that problem, then the city will pay for it, or they're going to make the landlords pay for it.
Yeah.
But if the landlords can prove that the tenants caused the damage, then like the landlords don't have to pay, but the city will still pay.
The spirit behind an amendment like that is from the basis of that tenants are just destroying units, right? And that is ignorant of the fact that a lot of units go neglected by the actual property owner who should be doing regular maintenance continuously. And a lot of times, like, you know, with things like catastrophic flooding issues or things like that, landlords are successful in blaming the tenant, even though it's clear and obvious that their lack of maintenance is why that pipe burst and their basement is full of sewage now.
The council members and the attorney are trying to stress that it would require a clear and convincing burden of proof on the landlord to claw back these fees. So they feel that they've done all that they can to make sure that it's not just the landlords backing out of having to pay for what they should. So
well, we'll see.
We'll see. And Adam Hussein did say, I would love to see the attorney's office track how this plays out.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see every time this comes up, what happens and how does it get resolved. So
I would love to see that too.
yeah, the city attorney was like, great, we can do that.
We'll see.
We'll see. This passes unanimously through all the meetings. Some members of Stoopfest are there. They want to be recognized by the city as a nonprofit, and they became a federal nonprofit in 2022. They tried to engage local talent and bring in musicians from the surrounding area for their music festival. President Cost says, I live on the east side, and I know all about the Stoopfest, and I love it.
Yes,
So-
Stoopfest is great. I go every year.
Awesome.
TRC will have a table at Stoopfest, so come see us.
Oh, nice. Great. So this passes no problem. And now we're into the regular meeting. So there's 3 board appointments. First one is for Melissa White to the South Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard Corridor Improvement Authority Board of Directors. And she's an emerging developer who's working with the Lansing Economic Development Corporation, the LEDC, on a brownfield in South Lansing on West Miller Road, which everyone is very excited about.
Yes. Yeah. I'm also very excited for it. I think, you know, it's one of the few things bringing people together in Lansing.
Yeah.
So very happy to support. I also think it's good to see emerging developers, you know, I guess I don't want to say reintegrating back into like the decision-making bodies, but I think that is a good sign of like continued investment in the community, aside from obviously putting money.
Literally investing
Literally
in the
investing.
community.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. And then we had another business owner, Jeffrey Hank, and he would like to be a business representative of the Michigan Avenue Corridor Improvement Authority Board of Directors. And I'm not super familiar with him. I looked him up a little bit. Looked like a lawyer, some cannabis shops.
Oh.
So.
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see how it goes.
See how it goes. And then last we had Shay Manowar to be appointed to the Local Development Finance Authority Board, and he works for the LEDC. So those folks are always in it.
Always.
Good for them.
Yes.
President Cost says, thanks everyone for letting me be the president this year. It has been an honor. To Jackson and council members Jackson and Brown, it's their last meeting. President Cost says, Jackson, you are one of the nicest people I've ever met in my life. Councilmember Brown, thank you for being out in the community and having a good sense of humor. I wish you both the best luck in the world. Councilmember Brown says, it's been a pleasure to serve the people of Lansing, to serve the community. I've learned, I've grown, I've made mistakes, and I'm so grateful for the experience. Councilmember Jackson says, I've also learned a lot from everyone here, but I want to give a warning. Beware of the powers in the city who think they are above the power of the people. The people hold the power in this system, and we need to keep vigilant, keep fighting to keep the people in power.
Indeed. He is not wrong. He is really not wrong.
Power to the people. Mayor Shore says, also thank you to Brown and Jackson, and please fill out my road surveys so that I know which roads are the problem. He says, we have 11 Police Academy graduates who are now sworn in as officers. We have 8 more going into the academy next year. New topic. The 13 State House Republicans cutting over $500 million is going to have a serious consequence for our city.
Yes.
We're going to keep on top of this and try to do what we can, but this could be truly devastating for our community.
It will be. It really will be. And I think the worst part about this move is that and I'm not an attorney, full stop. Mm-hmm. It does appear that they went by the book, and so a legal challenge on this may not be successful in the way that we want. But I can't predict the future, but I'm just looking at things as they are right now. And so the gaps created in housing, in healthcare programs, in employment readiness, just it will be devastating. Yeah. It really will be. And one thing that's not really being talked about, and not too many people are plugged in this way, but legal services lost $1 million in this cut, right? And one of the counties that they serve is Ingham. And so they are already struggling, in some ways to keep up with the overall demand in this area. Mm-hmm. And now on top of that, to be losing this funding, it's not going to be great. It's not going to improve things for sure. It's going to make things worse.
Yeah.
And then, it's just all happening at a really bad time. City Rescue Mission lost $1 million.
Jeez.
Yeah. So I don't know, what they may have had planned for that funding.
Yeah.
But
that's a lot.
It is a lot. Mm-hmm. Housing Trust Fund lost $15 million. Yeah.
How about the Tenant Resource Center?
We didn't lose any money in the clawback.
Okay.
Our funding comes from, our initial seed funding came from ARPA spend down funding that the Housing Trust Fund had.
Nice.
And then the rest of our funding, at least the vast majority of it, comes from the housing and homelessness millage that was passed in 2024.
Okay.
So we made it. Nice. That doesn't mean that we couldn't be touched in other ways.
Sure.
We certainly will feel the impact and the brunt of this as people are losing touch points, as jobs go away that are associated with certain industries and stuff. Mm-hmm. People are going to just be diverting to whoever is available, whether or not it's apparent to them that it is even something we can assist with. Mm. And so while financially we weren't touched, from a workload perspective, we'll certainly feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
so
next, we're talking about the Parks Master Plan for the next 5 years. There's one comment on this from the Friend of Lansing Historic Cemeteries, and she says, in the 187-page document, there's only 4 sentences that focus on the cemeteries. The Parks Department does not have a plan or vision for the cemeteries. Councilmember Hussein says, yes, we're going to push this plan through because it needs to be on the books for the city to get some Department of Natural Resources grants. We can update this plan later to add back in the cemeteries.
Oh, boy.
Alan Fox, the Ingham County Treasurer, gives a comment about the 8 properties that are going to the city of Lansing that could not be sold by the county at auctions. And Mr. Fox gives some overview. He says, we started with 150 properties this year, and we got down to 8. We unforeclose wherever we can. We work with everybody we can. We work with the Eastside Community Action Center. They took on some properties. They're some of our best partners. He's saying, for the Pruce property in Old Town, I hope that the council can see their way to clear the Make Safe or Demolish order. People are interested in rehabilitating this property. It would be a new experience for us, but it would be valuable. None of the Old Town folks from earlier said anything about this property. But
well, that's not impacting the property values as much.
So this seems like end-of-year business, so that all is fine. There was an Obsolete Property Rehabilitation Act tax break ask an Oprah property redevelopment by some folks who own a tattoo business, and they're working with the LEDC to get this break, and they do. That goes through 8-0. And then we have the payment in lieu of taxes pilot tax break redevelopment plan, and this is for Pinebrook Manor on South Waverly. It's 136 low-income units. So one comment, there's a bunch of comments here. One person starts out, 32 years is absurdly long for this tax break. We have concerns about where the residents will live during the renovation properties. What else was considered for this property by the city? Who will manage the day-to-day operations? These are out-of-state developers. They're going to make money over this. Where has been code compliance during this whole process of this place falling apart? The mayor
tagging the houses of our seniors, apparently.
Yeah. The mayor has told me to my face that he will never stop approving these pilot projects. And then the mayor pulls a face that I didn't see because I was looking at my computer. But somebody saw it and was like, I've never seen a face like that before. And this person says, don't make that face to me. I'll remember everything you've ever said to me. We have 30 pilot projects already on our books. These developers can afford to contribute to our city. We don't need to be bending over backwards for them.
It's true.
One of the developers was there, and he says, we're now requesting a 20-year break instead of a 32-year break. Like, look at how...
They started at 45.
Yeah. Look at how reasonable we're being. We're like coming down to accommodate the community.
My question about that is that he said in his comment, and I'm obviously paraphrasing because I don't have it right in front of me, but he said that they are aligning with the current 20-year HAP contract. So, like, is it finishing out the current 20 years and then they get to go to like market rate?
Right.
Or is it consecutive? Are they starting a new set of 20 years?
Yeah.
That's some clarity that I personally would love to have, because that makes a huge difference in what they're actually doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
no, that wasn't clear. I didn't catch that. So good eye. Yeah, and they're like, oh, you will work with a local management company to run the day-to-day. No residents are going to be kicked out. No residents will have their rents increase.
That's what they always say. Councilmember
Hussein says, I was against this at first, but these developers have changed my mind. They will be good community partners. He's like, I get a lot of calls about this property, and the current owner is absentee. This is going to be better than what it is.
I feel like we heard similar comments about Sycamore, and then how did that turn out?
Not good.
No, not good at all. So,
Yeah.
I'm certainly going to be watching. I think that there are a lot of really important questions asked, especially about right to return. They said that people wouldn't be displaced, but what does that mean?
Right.
If you intend to be doing renovations while people are still living there, where are they going?
Yeah. And they said they did have 8 units, so they would do those 8 units first, and then they would like move people into those while they're doing the rest. Councilmember Jackson says we do not have enough low-income housing. These low-income housing folks are the backbone of our city. Those people can't always be here at the meetings advocating on their own behalf. Who is looking out for them when their properties are going to crap? We as a council have approved a bunch of tax breaks for, quote, affordable housing this year. We need to treat this the same way. If we don't do this project, we're going to capture the same amount of taxes. So it's not like a huge change in the amount of tax capture for the city. If we don't do it, we're going to get the same amount of taxes, but the people are going to be miserable.
Yeah.
So I do support it. This level of low-income housing is an important piece of the housing puzzle.
Yes, I agree. But that doesn't diminish the fact that there are important questions that need to be answered, and we should not rush headlong into affordable housing projects that ultimately harm people. I'm sure you'll talk about it, but Councilmember Cost spoke about other pilot projects that were meant to be affordable housing and what the conditions exist inside those. I don't think that's what we want for our low-income people. What are we saying to people when we greenlight these programs and then the deplorable housing conditions they're supposed to live in? I mean, we can do better, and we do have the time and ability to get answers to these questions and have this level of clarity before we're voting on this stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that level of accountability afterward, it just seems like there's no mechanism for that. There's nobody like going and watching and making sure this is done right up to what they promised.
Yeah. Yep. And when they were asked, the developer spoke after two commenters asked a series of questions. And I noticed that they did not respond to the part asking if there would be any type of standards basically attached to the pilot about habitability, about response times for repairs, for about all of this stuff for the duration of the contract. They did not respond to that. And I think that that would be a key way to ensure that people are able to hold you accountable and the community can see that you are wanting to do this the right way because it's already built into the contract that you are guaranteeing at least a time frame for repairs, that there is, you know, all of these things have been thought through that are issues for people who exist in these housing situations post-pilot.
And deserve to be figured out beforehand.
Yes, not after.
Yeah.
We have to be proactive, not reactive. Low-income people deserve proactivity, not reactivity.
This really sounds a lot like amidst the data center discussion, one of the commenters was like, the council needs to come up with a framework for how to decide on data centers going forward.
Yeah.
Like we need the same sort of thing for all these housing projects. Just have like a rubric. Like all these can be check boxes. Like all these issues are coming back again and again and again with every single one of these projects.
Yeah.
Just have a list.
Literally.
Like, hello.
And I mean, if they need help determining that list, they could go speak to the Register of Deeds. They operate off of a list of things that they have to check paperwork off of, right? And so they have a process to determine what's good and what's bad so that they can move forward. So I don't see why that would be an issue. And, you know, it is concerning considering other comments made during the meeting about people having their information come from social media. So like they're not apparently even doing the work necessary to get it directly from the source. And so how can we be assured that the people running our city are actually making informed decisions and are not just rubber stamping what the mayor says? But this is a problem with the weak council.
Yeah. Yeah. They see a flashy new presentation with some nice bar graphs and they're like, oh, approved.
And because they have no real political power as council members, they have no choice but to play the political theater game. None of them would actually vote against this project, despite there being legitimate concerns that need to be addressed because they don't want to be seen as blocking affordable housing. But I would put forth to them that you have a greater responsibility and duty to protect your constituents from people who are not going to do right by them. And one of the ways we can do that is by setting up a process for approving these things and also making sure we're doing our due diligence ahead of time so that we have answers to these community questions.
Yeah. Due diligence.
Got to do it.
Just like with our fire chiefs.
Yes, please. My God.
Yes. And like you mentioned, Ryan Cost says, I have approved similar pilot projects early on in my career in council that were renovated with the crappiest materials possible, and that decision haunts me. I get calls from people all the time from these ones. I've read the reviews about these developers online from their other projects, and people say their rents did go up. A lot of our low-income community here is struggling. We should help them out where we can. A lot of them live in single-family houses, and we are not giving them breaks when they're fined for not mowing the grass or they don't pass an inspection. We should be giving them the same amount of leeway that we're giving to these big out-of-state developers. We can't claw back from them. I'm voting no. It goes through 7-1. Sorry, President Cost.
Yeah. But of course.
Last order of business, noise ordinance change. Councilmember Jackson's really all over this. So this is put forth from committee. I think Pelivanaglou and Cost leading this. And Jackson says, I don't like loud, annoying noises. I don't like music with profanities. However, the penalties should not be a criminal misdemeanor. As the police chief said earlier, warnings will be given as a first step. But that is wishful thinking. It is up to the discretion of the police officer, and this will be used to target young black men.
Yes.
They will do pre-contextual stops where the officer says that they care about the noise violation, but they're going to use that as an excuse to investigate other things. This will increase police contact. People get shot and killed with increased police contact. This is too much greater involvement with the police for too little gain. He reads off of the ordinance, beeping, muffler sounds, motorcycle sounds, having your TV, radio, or playing a musical instrument, and people can hear you within 100 feet. You can be arrested and put in jail for 90 days. Don't let your daughter or son be in a band or let them practice outside. They'll be arrested. If you're mowing your lawn after 8 p.m., arrested. If my kids borrow my car and play loud music, arrested. There's a lot of neighbors who are in feuds. They are going to use this to call the cops on each other.
Yes.
President Koss said, okay, what you are mentioning, a lot of that is already on the books. Like, this is a small change to the existing noise ordinance that aims to focus on vehicles that are drag racing at all hours of the night that have been artificially changed so that their cars are louder. You are fear-mongering. You're talking about extreme cases. People are not being sent to the gulag, but families with small kids should have some sort of recourse when their neighbors are being super noisy.
Will those parents still feel the same when it's turned on them because their kids are being too loud in the backyard? I've literally had my neighbor call the cops on me. I have 5 children. Mm-hmm. They were screaming, having a good time outside, and the neighbor called the cops.
God. Great. And what happened?
I politely told them to f off.
Yeah.
What are you here for?
Right.
These are obviously children. Yeah. They were like, well, we need to look at them and make sure that they're okay.
Okay.
All right. Here you are. So, based on what's already on the books, someone did use it as a weapon because they didn't like the sound of children playing outside. And luckily, I didn't get a fine. I didn't even really get a warning. They were just like, oh, well, we understand. And they probably felt a little embarrassed that that was a call that they were responding to.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was embarrassed for them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, Ryan Koss is wrong when he says that you're being dramatic. You're talking about extreme cases. Mm-hmm. That situation could have escalated. I was pissed.
I bet.
I was pissed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I am a Black woman, because you can't see me on the podcast. That type of interaction doesn't always work out well. Yeah. Right? And while, generally speaking, in my very minimal interactions with LPD, I've always been able to walk away. Mm-hmm. That's not always going to be the case.
But it's still traumatic for you, I bet.
I'm still pissed about it.
Yeah.
I still am pissed about it.
Yeah.
Yes. I am very upset that my kids even had to, present themselves to the police so that they would go away and stop harassing me because my kids were enjoying their yard, the thing I pay the bills for, so that they can hang out and have a good time.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that. Councilmember Jackson says, I want a motion to turn all of this into a civil infraction, not a criminal misdemeanor. Attorney Venker is like, that's going to change more than what we have before us right now on the agenda. And so 3 to 5, they don't do that. And I'm pretty sure it was Jackson, Spatafor, and Carter who voted yes. So, but it doesn't go through. And then they vote on the noise ordinance amendment, and it is 4 to 4. Mm-hmm. Hussein, Cost, Pelivanoglou, and Garza, yes. Jackson, Spatafor, Brown, and Carter, no. Mm-hmm. So it does not go through.
Perfect.
The mayor says, Happy Hanukkah. Thanks for coming to the menorah lighting this evening. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. The end.
It was a brutal city council meeting.
Yeah.
But you know what? I will give the mayor credit. He's very good at his job and in terms of how he presents himself to the public. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But I will give him that. Mm-hmm. I will certainly give him that. Mm-hmm. And, I really liked I love the speech Brian Jackson gave on that noise ordinance. And I just want to highlight that East Lansing has a similar ordinance trying to work its way through their city council.
Interesting.
It's talking about mufflers. It is updating for, pretextual stops. You know what I mean? They are working on their ordinances to make it easier for police interactions to happen. Things are mirroring in our communities, right?
Yeah.
The key to a safer community is to get to know the people that live there.
Yeah.
So you make less assumptions about motivations.
Yeah. And Councilmember Jackson did bring that up. Are we building trust here? Mm-hmm. That should be our main goal with the police,
Good luck.
Yeah.
With a noise ordinance like that.
So thank you, Khadja, so much.
Thank you for
staying
having me
here, chatting with me about this.
Yeah. I appreciate it.
Yeah, good times.
I appreciate it.
Thank you to the Public Media Center for letting us record with you. Thank you all for listening. Would you like to shout out any events or things happening?
I would like to use this minute to just tell everybody that housing is a recognized human right. And our unhoused neighbors are, in fact, our neighbors. They are people who live amongst you. There's been a lot of talk about they're going to come into our neighborhood. Newsflash, they're already
here.
there.
Yeah.
And they've been there, and they'll continue to be there until we provide people the permanent housing they need. And then beyond that, the support necessary to stabilize in that environment. If you want homelessness to go away, if you want encampments to cease in existence, you have to provide the corresponding housing. There's no other way out of the housing and homelessness crisis. That's it. And, you know, our unhoused people, again, they are humans worthy of dignity and respect. These are people who were housed, who are currently working. There's a person at Dietrich Encampment who works full-time, contributes to his 401k, and is saving for retirement. Like, he's saving for retirement at an encampment. He cannot afford the housing that is available. Right? So I hope just hearing me today at least maybe permeated the cloud and mystery surrounding unhoused people. They're literally just your neighbor without housing. That's it. They didn't change fundamentally as a person. As their character hasn't changed. They still exist as the whole human being.
If you want to talk more about this, we're having a podcast party this Thursday, the 18th, at the Foster Community Center, the big room over the gym, room number 213, from 6 to 8 p.m. It's going to be great. Or you can go to the Mod Pod meeting. Unfortunately, they are at the same time. You can check out the Patreon for the podcast, where you can pay me $5 a month for all this wonderful content. You can also see the bingo results for the meeting and an issue map of the locations discussed. Next meeting will be in 3 weeks on January 5th. Our guest will be William Lawrence. And that is it for this podcast. Yay!
Yay!
And for the best dressed at tonight's meeting, the award goes to the Deputy Clerk, Brian P. Jackson. Wow! He had a resplendent port wine silk suit coat with iridescent pastel sequins in tight zigzag patterns. He was giving off real Nutcracker ringmaster vibes. The runner-up were Spatafor and Carter. Both spotted green suit coat, deciduous forest green for Spatafor, and Kelly green for Carter over collared white shirts. Matching!